Not only did we just get one of the funniest chapters in all of JJK, we got some incredible feats for both characters, both for Kenjaku while he summons a new special grade cursed spirit, and as well as for Takaba where his reality manipulation truly has no bounds as it's potentially continental level, and it's even one-shotting special grade cursed spirits. We learned so much this chapter, and this chapter was absolutely peak fiction, and I just really got to talk about it, as there are a lot of references to even Yu Yu Hakusho during this chapter, and even a reference and a homage to Gojo and Geto when they're doing the stand-up comedy in that cover page. It's actually the same thing with Kenjaku and Takaba, and it seems like they might be the next comedic duo, the funniest sorcerer in history versus the funniest sorcerer of today. So hey, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, and of course if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this. A ton of spoiler videos on chapters, analysis, power scaling, crazy theory videos, because less than 10% of people who actually watch this channel are subscribed, so trust me, if you love JJK, you will not regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to the special members of the channel, it is much appreciated. And without further ado, let us get into this chapter. So the first thing I even want to talk about before I actually get into the contents, because there is a lot to talk about, is the fact that a lot of people aren't liking this chapter. It's more so an issue of this whole fight in general. I mean, one of the initial reactions I even saw during the live chat that I was doing when I did the live stream, and even on my Twitter, I'm seeing people actually say, oh, this is so boring, it's being dragged out. And granted, it is a lot less than last week or the previous weeks before that because it was really bad last chapter, whereas of this chapter, it's actually a lot better because clearly you can tell this chapter was really good. I mean, I don't even think that it's debatable that this is the most interesting and clearly the best chapter yet for this Takaba and Kenjaku fight because of just how much happens, how much is thrown at us, and especially how many jokes are made with all of these different scenarios and settings, and learning so much about all these characters as well. So it's clear that a lot of people are actually starting to enjoy this, whereas maybe they weren't before, so that's a good sign. It seems like people are actually liking this one. And again, I do want to say, if you don't like this chapter, if you find it boring, that's completely fair. It's one of those things where it's sad to see. I would love to see everyone enjoy this as much as I am. I really do find this so funny, and just, I love it so much. It's really got the heart of JJK, and it's also touching on a side of JJK that we could just never touch on before. We'd briefly seen it whenever Takaba had fought, but now it's just going full throttle, and we're seeing Gege write in a way that he's never written before either. And it's clear that Gege himself is having fun with every single bit of art that he draws, because you can tell the art in this chapter, I don't know if you guys have noticed, was phenomenal. The quality was just incredible, especially for the beach scenes or the ending scene as well when they're going to do the comedy stand-up. It's just incredible. Gege went absolutely hard, and you can just tell with the jokes that are made, with the expressions that are made, with the uniqueness, the creativity, and again, the art. Gege really loved this chapter. He really was looking forward to draw this. I don't know for how long, but it seems like he was having a lot of fun, and as a reader, I can see that, and it makes me enjoy it more as well. Now, to actually talk about the contents of the chapter, it was pretty interesting. So Kenjaku actually starts the chapter off by summoning a special grade cursed spirit, which of course Takaba then one-shots that special grade cursed spirit. It is pretty incredible to think about that he could just instantly kill a special grade cursed spirit with just simply a truck. So it really just goes to show you that if Takaba was willing to kill people, especially humans, he could have one-shot Hazanoki, he could have one-shot Reg, he could have just instantly killed him had he wanted to. His curse technique, as we will touch upon later on in this video, is truly godlike, to the point where I think it really could just be the strongest thing we've ever seen. I mean, I always thought Infinity or Sukuna's curse technique could be stronger, but it seems like it isn't. I mean, the only potential weaknesses that I see that his curse technique could have is either A, domain amplification or domain expansion, which is debatable. It could go either way, since we know that a domain expansion, when the sure hit attacks a user, it acts like that user's curse technique isn't there. Now, it doesn't negate the curse technique, it doesn't turn it off, it just attacks them like it's not there and bypasses any defense or hacks that it has. So you have to question, if Kenjaku were to activate his domain expansion, would that bypass the reality manipulation? Would it act like it's not there, or is the reality manipulation simply so powerful that it can even bend the laws of the Jujutsu Kaisen world itself and do something that shouldn't even be possible with any other curse technique, that not even Gojo's curse technique can do? And as for if Takaba has his own domain, that would be hilarious. You know, people are saying a lot of jokes such as Takaba would find it funny if he had a domain, so he'd just create one like that. That would be hilarious. The only other thing that I could see bypassing this, and I don't even think Hollow Purple, to be honest, could actually bypass Takaba's curse technique. I get it's really powerful, and it seems like it's possible that the only reason Sukuna even blocked it himself was because he used domain amplification, but just the fact that it's reality manipulation versus a Hollow Purple, it's tough to say, and I can't be certain. You know, you may disagree with this, which is completely fine, but at least in my own personal opinion, I really feel like with Takaba's curse technique, he could actually tank a Hollow Purple. The only technique, again, that I think could actually bypass is Sukuna's ability specifically to cut the world, since that would cut not Takaba himself or his curse technique, it would cut the space where he's at, so it would just bypass his curse technique. And I could even be wrong about that. Maybe Takaba's curse technique would nullify that, but I doubt it though. And what's interesting is we learned a lot about Takaba's curse technique, because it seems like it's 100% confirmed that not only does his curse technique affect others, but it actually affects their emotions and their very thoughts as well. So we briefly saw this with Kenjaku, where in the previous chapters he was thinking, why am I thinking this? Why am I thinking this way? Whereas now it's just even becoming strong, and even Kenjaku saying, oh, I'm going to lose at this rate. He's just manipulating me too much. And we even see Takaba is somehow just creating different scenarios. So all of a sudden they're in a city, and Kenjaku becomes a police officer, and and Takaba's curse technique even creates other people. That's how strong the reality manipulation is, and it's really cool seeing Kenjaku in that policeman outfit, and then all of a sudden they're both doctors and they're in a hospital, and we even see that Takaba's curse technique actually changes the gender of Kenjaku, where Kenjaku went from being a man to a woman, not in a body swap way. He actually changed Kenjaku's gender, because we see Kenjaku's facial structure has changed, so it's more feminine and such. So you can even see that they got lipstick now, and of course they also have a chest. So it's just incredible to see how far this curse technique can actually push things. I mean, if it can do this, then what can't it do? And we even see it do something even crazier later on, where again it creates more people. It's creating a game show. I don't know how it's creating these humans. Like, are these real people or are these fake people just created for the scenario that would cease to exist after Kenjaku's done of his bit? We even see Kenjaku transforms into a cat as well at one point, but of course Takaba actually creates a whole ocean, an actual ocean, where there is a sun in the background as well. Now this is different from a domain expansion where you're creating a whole pocket dimension. It somehow seemed like Takaba's actually doing this in a real world, so I have to question, did he actually just create an entire ocean and a sun? Because that's what it seems like. And again, it's not like with a domain expansion, it seems like he's doing this in our own dimension, in our own reality. And even Kenjaku is worried, saying, oh, Takaba is just affecting me too much, because even Kenjaku is like, oh, screw the con games, I'm so excited, this is just so much fun. And it is nice to see. So really Takaba did fulfill what he already said last chapter, where he said he was going to make Kenjaku laugh and be happy. It happened. It really did happen. Even if he was manipulating his thoughts, Kenjaku did think that. And Kenjaku even thinks that the only way to defeat Takaba is to just be him at his own game. He wears a suit, and we did find out later on, Kenjaku figures this out, that it also affects the opponent's imagination and uses it as well. So it seems Kenjaku is taking advantage of this. Alright, now I'm actually going to be doing something completely different for this section of the video, and I'm actually just going to try and break it down analytically, because I do think that this chapter was a lot better than people gave it credit for. We see that from the very beginning, it's established that Kenjaku just can't beat Takaba with his own curse techniques or by any means. I mean, he summons a special grade curse spirit, and we don't even know how strong it is, but it gets one shot. Again, a testament to how powerful Kenjaku's curse technique is, and if he was really willing to kill sorcerers, he could just one shot any grade 1 sorcerer. It is pretty insane to imagine, but at the very least, I don't know if I put Takaba's special grade level quite yet, but his curse technique clearly is amongst that caliber of technique, since I even believe that if Kenjaku were fighting people like Yuki, Hakari, Yuta, even Gojo, just not including the domain expansions, if we're just saying base to base, I don't see how any of them actually beat Takaba. That's how powerful his curse technique is. And it is deadly as well. If he's willing to kill, it can do a lot of damage. And it's just structured great. We see joke after joke where the scenario changes again and again, and this chapter just feels so fresh and new. It doesn't feel like at any point that it's getting boring. It just keeps bringing crazier and wackier scenarios, and especially with how Kenjaku acts. I think that's the most interesting. With how Kenjaku becomes a nurse, with how Kenjaku's dancing and being happy, with how Kenjaku even attacks Takaba's nose, and Takaba also does the same where they stick their fingers up each other's noses. They're playing the game show. Kenjaku even tries to become a cat and trick him to get hit by a car, and of course when they're playing in the ocean. And for these reasons, I think it's why this chapter flows so well. From the beginning, you establish you can't really beat him with a serious technique, so we see a bunch of goofy stuff happening throughout the chapter, and of course by the end of it, Kenjaku realizes that he just can't be manipulated by this, and we actually see Kenjaku take the reins. We even see Takaba actually blushes a bit, or he gets excited by this, thinking that they're actually going to be a comedic duo, and again, they're in a comedy stand, and we see it ends on a very good note. It's one of those cliffhangers where, sure, it's not a big, oh, is he going to die, what's going to happen type of cliffhanger that we usually see in JJK. Let's say with Yuki getting her stomach blown out, Yuji and Higuruma arriving on the battlefield, or pretty much every chapter of Sukuna and Gojo, where it's just an absolutely crazy cliffhanger. This one's much more different because it's very dramatic, but not for the serious reason, because we're finally getting to see what Takaba always wanted realized. He always wanted a comedic partner. He always wanted to perform stand-up in such a way, as we've seen previously in the other chapters. And it seems like maybe he's actually getting acknowledged by Kenjaku as well. Maybe that's how he feels, as Kenjaku himself actually wants Takaba's desire for comedy to be fulfilled. It is quite an interesting relationship and dynamic between the two. Personally, I just absolutely love it. And again, Gege hits every single tone that he needs to this chapter, and it is really incredible how Gege is going from a completely different theme and tone that he normally does in Jujutsu Kaisen fights. We've had Takaba fights before, but they have been very brief, and it's always been off-screen as well. So to see that Gege is actually doing this, at least for the first time in JJK, and he's just crushing it, it really speaks volumes and shows us that he is a really good author. At least that's what I think. And in case you aren't aware, we actually have 3 more chapters of this left. And if you've actually been following me on Twitter, then you would already know that this wasn't going to be the last chapter, and this was just the 5th chapter of an 8-chapter fight. And shout out at Kyle Scooter as well for tweeting this out. But they actually figured out that Takaba's arc follows Bobo's opening song. So we can quite literally see that the title chapters that we're getting of each chapter are directly coming from Bobo's opening song. And not only that, Kyle Scooter actually predicted a week or 2 ago that this chapter would be called Rise Up. He actually nailed it on the head. And it seems like the next chapter after this will be called called Soar, the chapter after that will be called Cry and Scream, and the final chapter of Takaba vs Kenjaku will be called Be Boisterously Noisy. Which again, I know a lot of people are getting upset that it does seem like we're going to get 3 more chapters of Takaba after this chapter, but personally, again, I love it. I think this chapter was great. If we're getting 3 more chapters of this level of quality, I would totally enjoy it, and I do feel like the final chapter in particular would be a much more serious and dramatic tone, probably leading to the defeat of one of these characters and potentially to the deaths of someone. But that's all for the video. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like. It helps out a ton. Thank you very much. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content. Again, I make a ton of spoiler videos on chapters like this one, crazy theory videos, power scaling analysis, and like I said in the beginning, over 90% of people who actually watch my channel aren't subscribed. So if you love JJK, you want to see some consistent and quality JJK content, you will not regret subscribing, trust me. And of course, thank you to all the channel members as well. It is much appreciated. And if you've watched this far, you remember the Higurumo fan club. Thank you. That's all from me. Take care and have a nice day.